Good day, Bob here at Weldnrust, and the plan is to build a trunk lid. But before we actually build the lid, we got to build a framework for the lid to conform to so we get the shape right. Anyways, that's the plan. Hopefully it'll work out this time. Well, my original plan was to use some round bar, create the shape. As you can see, I don't have a whole lot left, so I'm going to keep that. And I'm going to use what I've got a lot of. There's a bunch of flat steel. It's only about, I don't know, 20 gauge. It's very light. But what my plan is, I'm going to shrink it so it actually conforms. And the shape, you've seen me do this in a previous video. I'm going to use my ruler for it. So I'm going to do that, and then I got something to go by for making the other part. You see why I kind of elevated it? I tried to get this curve to aesthetically be right. Most of this section is probably going to get cut away with the new trunk lid. The trunk lid's going to kind of come up to about here. That's my best guess right now. I won't know until I actually start making it. But I do want to get that initial shape right. So now we've run into another dilemma. I raised this up. Oh, by the way, thank you, Patrick, for the ring light. And this is the stand that came with it, which is awfully handy for holding this up. Anyways, the issue we got, as you can see, we've got like a peak here, and it drops here. The actual curve is going to come somewhere around like this, and then kind of drop to about here, which is the edge of the lid. Oops. That's easy to overdo. Okay, finally got it. This is about what, 10-15 minutes of absolute tedium, back and forth, because what would happen is I would shrink, and then I'd over shrink and just a little touch on the opposite side. And it was back and forth until I got this to align with this. Crappy old piece of rod tacked in, because in order to get this in, this is going to have to come out and this thing's going to flop down, and we can't have that. So I'm not sure what shape I want over here. Just to give me some ballpark, I'm just going to take a little bit of this. And see what happens when I do this. Maybe a little flatter than that. Because this will be about where the end of the trunk lid's going to be. So if I were to follow that curve down, what would it look like? The interesting thing is, from around here, it's going to have to flatten out more. It's going to be almost flat by the time it gets to here. Guys, I'm in uncharted territory. This could prove interesting. Okay, I've trimmed a bit off the end on this one, so it would fit a little bit better. So it's going to sit somewhere around there. When I finish tacking it, I want to make sure I've got just a slight crown on here. I'll check with my ruler once I get the other piece made over across it, because it's going to fit somewhere around in here. Anyways, yeah, my next step, I got to make one identical to this. So here we have one finished one, and through the magic of editing, we now have two. So this is kind of interesting, something I forgot about. Did a little measurement from here. Same on the other side, there's an inch difference. It turns out this line isn't on the center line, and I made the assumption it was. Oops. So I just kinked this over 1/2 inch to compensate. So this should be on the center line now. This won't be. Not going to matter. So what I got to do now is I want to notch these the same so they fit the same on both sides. This shows a crown, just a bit of a crown, and that's what I want. You can see it better like that. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to notch these out little at a time. Same for both sides until they fit where I want them. Because this, as you can see, will move a fair bit. Like I said before, I'm kind of dealing with uncharted territory. Since I'm not really sure how this is going to turn out, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a little test panel. Something about from here to here, because I know the shape I want here and forward, that's fine. And I know I want it flat here. How it's going to look here and how the material is going to work, that I don't know. So it's probably easier for me just to start with a small piece of material and see what it looks like if I play with it. So I grabbed a piece of cardboard, and what I'm going to do is I just kind of lay it on here just to give me some idea of where the material has to go and how difficult it's going to be to move, what it's going to tell me. It's almost like it's kind of obvious to be bending in here. It still has to curve this way. And if my best guess, it's going to need some stretching right in the middle. Well, I'm going to make a panel and find out. So I found a chunk in the pile, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it triangular shaped. I'm going to cut off that, cut off this, and you work with this section here. And I think what I'm going to try doing is running just this section through the English wheel and taper down and see what kind of result I get with that. Well, this is now getting promising. What I've got is I've got a close match up in here. Most of it I can just literally hand manipulate. The only thing I don't like right now is you can't see it obviously, but I've got about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch where it's not quite touching this. But I could probably fix that if I trim this little bit off in here. Probably put it to where I want it. This little bit in here, the bit that it's off, yeah, I can just almost manipulate it by hand. I'm going to have to put it back on the wheel again because I can almost... Oh, you might be able to actually see that from the ring light. Thank you, Patrick, again for the ring light. But it actually shines a little bit of on here so I can kind of see any imperfections. I got like a flat spot in here. I might run it through the wheel again for a couple of minutes. And I think that I'm going to trim this and see what we got after that. Just an FYI, the way I was wheeling it was going to be kind of hard for you to see from the angle you were looking at. But instead of just wheeling in here, I ended up having to wheel almost all the way like this and almost stop pretty much right here. So you can still
feel it there, but that way it stays flat here. But I was quite surprised I had to go pretty much all the way here. I thought it was just going to be mostly in the middle. All right then. Trim this piece about 1 inch off of here and nothing here. And I had to kind of straighten it out a little bit from the shear. It kind of did some damage on here. Nothing major. I just had to hit it with a hammer a few times and flatten it out, run it through the wheel. And let's put this on here for a sec. You can kind of see what's going on now. So inside of here, it fits darn near perfect. Okay. There's a gap in here, and that's fine because this is not in the angle I want. But this should be pretty close to what I want. See, that fits really good. As you can see, there's some material missing here, but nothing major. Well, as you can see, I'm back in my contemplation chair because I haven't figured out how I'm going to go about this. One of you guys had mentioned about making it in multiple pieces and making it in 2 pieces, put a cement. I'll probably use that idea. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for liking and subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.